What up? Welcome to Tiny Pirate Gaming's 10 more tips and tricks for new players or anyone starting a new game in Grounded. So if you're a new player or if you think about starting a new game, this video might help you get some ideas about how you can start off your new game in the best possible way.
Whoa, I'm not just small, I'm tiny. This is freaking awesome!
Number 1. If you've been playing Grounded, or if you're a new player in Grounded, you know that one of the most frustrating parts of the game is when you die while you're exploring a new location and then you gotta run halfway across the map to get your backpack. One way to avoid this is to build lean-tos all over the map. And always remember to reset your respawn point so that way if you die, you'll respawn closer to your backpack than if you would at your regular base, or if you're respawning all the way back at the spawn point at the very beginning of the game. So it's easy to build a lean-to. All you need is 3 clover leaves and 2 sprigs, and you can find those almost anywhere across the map. My suggestion, or what I like to do, is whenever I find a field station, I like to build my lean-tos there so that way I can always respawn. And I figure the field stations are scattered around the map. You know, there's a field station in almost every region of the map, so if you build your lean-tos there, you'll always be spawning somewhere close to where your backpack was when you died. Unless you're like really awesome at the game and you never die, in which case, you know, that's awesome. I'm proud of you. Maybe you should make a tips tricks video for me so I don't die so much. Number 2. So my next suggestion is that if you started a new game or you're a new player to Grounded, there is a weapon you can find very early in the game that's useful primarily because it's a one-handed weapon and you can carry it into caves while you're also carrying a torch. So my next suggestion is that you go and you locate the Rotten Larva Blade. The Rotten Larva Blade can be located in really sort of an Easter egg reference to the Sword in the Stone from the King Arthur story. And you can find it by going on the house side of the fallen branch. Near the field station, you will locate a hot dog case for a Billy Hog's hot dog, and underneath of that will be some leaves that sort of make like a little temple shrine where you can find a sword jammed into a stone, and you can gain it, and it's the Rotten Larva Blade. Now, it's really not that powerful. It's not a great weapon, but like I said, it's a one-handed weapon that you can use a torch while carrying it at the same time, and this is useful, especially as we get into my next tip. Number 3. My next suggestion would be to craft the ant armor. Now, the easiest way for a new player to craft the ant armor is to take a one-handed weapon, preferably the Rotten Larva Blade, and a torch, and head over to the abandoned ant hill near the oak tree. Go down in there, beat up a bunch of ants and soldier ants, and you can get a bunch of ant parts that will allow you, hopefully, to craft the ant armor. Crafting the ant armor means you got to build the ant helmet, which is 1 ant head, 3 ant parts, and 5 mite fuzzes, the ant arm guards, which is 5 ant parts, 2 acid glands, and 2 mite fuzzes, and the ant knee guards, which is 6 ant parts, 2 crude ropes, and 4 mite fuzzes. Wearing the full set of ant armor activates the perk Humant, which means that soldier ants will not attack you unless you provoke them. It also means you can carry more stuff on your shoulders, which means if you're building bases or building large structures and you're using a lot of grass planks and a lot of weed stems, you're going to want to wear the ant armor so you can carry more of those for your building. The reason I bring up building the ant armor here is because my next tip is really to explore the Westerly Anthill. The Westerly Anthill is really a treasure trove of all sorts of wonderful little resources that you really can't find anywhere else on the map. What you can find down there is also a bunch of raw science orbs and I think at least 2 different SCA.B color schemes, in addition to all the wonderful little resources such as the quartzite primarily. Sometimes you can find ant eggs in there, but warning, if you take the ant eggs, even if you're wearing ant armor, the ants will attack you. Also, you can find the Rotten Bee armor down in there. The Rotten Bee armor is really the only way to obtain bee armor currently in the game. If you're playing the early access at the moment, which is January 2021. But so currently it's really just like the Rotten Larva Blade from the last tip, and it's sort of like a collectible for the early access. But at some point in the future, you'll be able to craft it yourself. Anyway, those are the reasons I suggest with my next tip that you go down into the Westerly Anthill and build yourself a set of ant armor so you can go down in there safely, and it will also help you build better structures when you're crafting and building cool, awesome, exciting bases like this one. But I'm so stupid because I forgot to mention the most important reason you go down into the Westerly Anthill, and that is sometimes you will find mint down there. Mint is one of the most secluded and hard to find resources in the backyard because it is a finite resource. Once you harvest the mints inside of the mint container, you can never find them again except down in the bottom of the Westerly Anthill. So that's another reason to visit there while you're looking at my cool base that I built. By the way, this base is what I called the Puncho Castle. Unfortunately, Puncho Castle disappeared with one of the updates because I lost my save files. So no more Puncho Castle, I have to rebuild it. Anyway, let's get on to the next tip. Number 4. So this next tip is really just a reminder or a suggestion or a did you know you could do this? Because I didn't for the longest time while I was playing Grounded, and that is that you can shoot the blueberries down with arrows. You can just shoot them down with arrows. You don't have to climb up in the tree or in the blueberry bush and knock them down with your axe, and then use your glider to glide down and then harvest them there. You can just shoot them down with your arrows. So don't do what I did for the longest time in this game, which is climb up there. Just shoot them down. Just shoot them down. It's great. It's wonderful. It makes things so much easier. Number 5. This next tip is sort of like the first tip, and that is when you're in the hedge zone, which is the blueberry bushes, as mentioned in the prior tip. Well, the hedge is actually one of the most difficult places to traverse because it's built up of sort of a maze of branches and zip lines that you have to go around to get through the area. My suggestion is that you build a bunch of lean-tos up inside of the branches of the hedge in case you A, fall down to the surface level where there's actually a lot of spiders, or B, get attacked by the spiders that are up in the hedge. Although currently there's only spiderlings up there, there's a lot of spiderlings, and if they team up on you, they might get you, especially if you're not wearing good armor. So just build a bunch of lean-tos around up there, especially when you're trying to explore the hedge lab, which is part of some of the quest lines you're going to do if you're playing through the early access. Just build them up there so that if you die from one of the spiders, you will not have to run halfway across the map to get your backpack, in addition to climbing your way through the hedge, which can be extremely frustrating and annoying because the branches aren't connected and you got to take all these zip lines and you fall off and it's crazy. So just build lean-tos up there. Number 6. So if you're a new player and you're having a hard time trying to defeat some of the bigger bugs so you can unlock the recipes for the tier 2 weapons and the tier 2 armors, there is a way to actually bypass having to defeat the larger bugs, and that is by cracking open the web sacks. Granted, in order to get to the web sacks, you're going to have to go into areas where the spiders are, but sometimes if you break open a web sack, it will drop bombardier beetle parts or stink bug parts or ladybug parts, and it's a way to bypass having to actually defeat those insects in combat, which can be very difficult when you're using tier 1 armors and weapons, especially if you're new to the game and you haven't gotten the timing down for your blocks. Warning though, when you are checking the web sacks, most of the time 2 to 3 spiderlings will also crack out with the bug parts that come out, so just you're gonna have to fight them, so just be ready for that. Number 7. My next suggestion is that when your thirst meter starts a beeping at you, there's only one thing to do, and that's I guess drink some dew. But there's another thing you can do, and that is to drink Puncho brand juice box, the only juice box guaranteed to kickstart your miniature mornings off right. And in order to find the Puncho brand juice box, you have to find the Puncho brand juice boxes. There are 5 of them around the backyard, and once you've discovered all 5 of them, you will unlock a new perk called Juicy. Juicy is a perk that means your thirst and hunger meters will decrease more slowly. Now, the main reason I say to drink Puncho over Dew is because Puncho not only fills your thirst meter, it also fills your food meter. And in the early parts of the game, if you're a new player, you haven't built a Dew collector yet, unless you're really awesome and you've gotten some spiderweb and you built it really quick, which I highly recommend. But if you haven't built a Dew collector, the Puncho brand juice boxes is your next best bet to filling that thirst meter.
Number 8.
My next tip is that as you're adventuring around the backyard, you're going to want to be on the lookout for raw science orbs. Raw science orbs will appear around the backyard after the explosion at the Oak Lab during the opening mission surrounding the mysterious machine. Once that happens, you can locate raw science orbs in various locations all around the backyard. And raw science is ultimately the currency that you're going to need to buy upgrades and recipes from Burgle at the Oak Lab. So while you're adventuring, grab as many of them as you can. If you're wondering what they look like, well, they look like purple glowy balls with little weird yellow symbols in them, and they make a high-pitched little ting sort of sound when you're near one. So listen and look for raw science orbs.
Number 9.
In my opinion, the very first perk / mutation that you want to buy from Burgle at the Burgle shop is the Meat Shield mutation. Now, the Meat Shield mutation currently costs 5,000 raw science. That is subject to change in future updates, but the Meat Shield is probably one of the best perks mutations you can have in the game because it increases your total health, which means you can survive more damage and more attacks without necessarily needing the higher tiered armors. Although you still want the higher tiered armors because the Meat Shield's not going to make you invincible or anything. It's just going to give you a little bit of extra health. But it is a very good mutation, and it's one of the first things I recommend you spend your raw science on.
Number 10.
Finally, I highly recommend that you build yourself a few spinning wheels, at least 2 to 4, sometimes more, depending on how much you're planning to craft and build. The reason I say to build the spinning wheels is because the spinning wheels allow you to convert web fiber into silk rope. And silk rope is a resource you're going to need to build higher tiered weapons and armor. You can also use the spinning wheel to turn 1 plant fiber into 1 crude rope, which means you're actually getting more crude rope per plant fiber than if you crafted it in your backpack. Because when you craft it in your backpack, it costs 3 plant fiber to make 1 crude rope. The recipe to build the spinning wheel is 2 acorn tops, 4 pieces of clay, 4 ant parts, 3 saps, and 4 crude ropes. And that's it. 10 more tips and tricks for new players or anyone starting a new game during the early access period of Grounded. I hope these tips help you out when you're starting your new game and get you off to the best possible start that you can get off to when starting a new playthrough. Anyway, I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, well, you could help me out by hitting that like button. And if you want to see more Grounded themed, Grounded related, and also other gaming related content coming soon here on Tiny Pirate Gaming, well, then you can subscribe. I really appreciate that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
Arg, matey, watch your step. There be a tiny pirate here.